Well, hello and welcome everybody to the Resilient Minds podcast. Today we got a great friend of mine here with me. I'm super grateful to have him. He's an entrepreneur, author, athlete, bodybuilder, model, and international speaker. I have to say that, it's been said that when The Rock bumped into him, The Rock asked him for a photo together. So, he shared the stage with Deepak Chopra, Steve Forbes, Susie Welch, and he's actually been invited to speak on stages with Tony Robbins for Unleash the Power Within, which is where I got to meet this beautiful soul in Singapore. And since we've become, it's been always great. We went out for dinner after, and please, everybody, welcome Mr. Nick Santonastasso.
Yeah.
I might have butchered it. Sorry, dude.
I like it. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, we first met. This guy was in the front row at the UPW in Singapore, screaming his bloody head off, and so always maxing out on his energy. And so I've been grateful to be in proximity with Eric, and like I said, spend not only time together at the seminar, but afterwards at dinner, and just when you connect with people and they align, it's like magic. So I am happy to be here, my friend.
Thanks for coming, bro. It's always such a pleasure. You always have such great energy, and I don't know if you want to share, but we literally we got onto the call, and you're smiling. And do you want to share what just happened? And you're like smiling in like good spirits.
Yeah. I didn't even tell anyone yet. You're actually the first person I told. I haven't even told my friends or my family. I crashed my car like in 30 minutes right before this podcast, and but luckily it's not totaled. My turbo is not really working the way it should anymore, and so after this call, I have my police report, and I'm gonna call my insurance and then schedule it to get fixed. And so we're here, we're ready to ride, and there's no need to really dawn or focus on the negative, right, or focus on the fact that I crashed my car, because there's so much that I can appreciate. It's not totaled. I was able to drive it home. I'm still alive, and so I'm good. The guy wasn't hurt. His front bumper was like, it was a truck, and so he really just jammed me up, and so we're good. I'm ready to ride.
Yeah, man, and smiling, it's fascinating how the other day I was talking with Brian Mayoral.
Yep.
Right? We were chatting literally the other day about decisions versus conditions, right? And how our conditions don't need to affect us. It's actually the decisions that we have about them that determine our destiny. And Tony says that all the time, right? But I know, and you've been quoted, that the biggest disability is a bad mindset. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, man. I feel like that's the name of the game, right? Because it comes down to your programming, it comes down to your conditioning, it comes down to your mindset. And there's so many different rabbit holes that we can dive deep. And, speaking of focus, I always make it really simple. And I tell people, like, for those listening, for those that don't see the video part, I was born with no legs and one arm. And just to give you a little bit of context, I was born with a rare super genetic disorder called Hanhart syndrome. And Hanhart syndrome either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so I'm 23 years old. In 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs. And so they gave me about a 30% chance to live. But I always tell people, Tony says where focus goes, energy flows, but our problems need focus in order to live, right? Our problems need focus in order to thrive. And to make it really simple, I tell people I can wake up every day and focus on the fact that I'll never become a professional soccer player, or I can focus on the fact that I harness my individual strengths and the things that I can do. And I would have a very low quality of life if I was pursuing being a soccer player with no legs, right? And so it's just, we go back to the decisions or what are you focusing on? And, I tend to focus on my individual strengths. I tend to focus on solutions instead of the problems. I tend to focus on all that I can do versus I can't. And so it's really the question we can flip to the viewers is, what do you spend most of your time focusing on? Do you spend most of your time focusing on the things that you can't control, or do you spend the majority of your time focusing on the things you can control?
Beautiful. I think that's so important. And it's like, especially during this time of uncertainty, right? So much of this time of this uncertainty, we talk about the things that you can't control. And one thing I want to touch on is, I always talk to everybody, on the podcast. I always share, turning our X factor, right? Our X factor, who we are, what we've experienced, what we've been through, into our Y factor, or WHY, right? Like our big why, right? So do you want to touch point on, I think that it's really inspiring, because I know that you've shared so many different ways of like things that you've experiences that you've gone through. So what, the fiber, the essence that you've recreated in yourself, your why, as a result of you going through these experiences through your life, the X factor, like the inside, the way that you were born, the hand-heart syndrome. How has that translated into now your mission?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is, my parents cultivated my mindset at an early age. As people in your environment, your parents, your caregivers, whoever it may be, you're cultivating the environment of the youth by your actions, by your words, the way you show up, the way you drive, the way you answer the phone call, the way you get pissed off in traffic. I mean, all these different things go into your conditioning, right? And so there was two things that my parents did or taught me or cultivated into me that were massive for who I am today and what my mission is. And so the first is, my parents basically sat me down and said, the world's not going to stop for you because you're born like this. This is tough love, and you're going to have to figure out how to do things Nick's way. And Nick's way may take a little bit longer. Nick's way may go left, go right, over the door, through the door if it's locked, right? But they would put my clothes in front of me and say, figure it out. And they would give me verbal suggestions, and I'd tinker with it, and I'd fall down and get pissed off at them. And like, why are you not helping me? And so what they were really doing, which I didn't know at the time, was first, they were getting me comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is massive for anyone, because my X factor is, I know that everything's going to be hard. My whole life things were hard, right? And so when I build a business, or when I try bodybuilding and I do all these things, like, I go into it knowing that this is going to be challenging and this is going to be hard and it's going to take me an extra time. But if someone hasn't exercised the muscle of being in uncomfortable situations, if someone hasn't exercised of, challenging themselves, then that stuff is uncomfortable at first and they don't like it and they run away from it. And then the second thing that they cultivated into me was, by putting that stuff in front of me, they have programmed my brain or designed my brain to be solution oriented, which is one of the most valuable things that a human, entrepreneur, employee, teacher, whatever it may be, that you can have, is a solution-oriented mindset. So my brain is not designed to react to problems. My brain is designed to say, what's the solution? How am I going to get on this chair? How am I going to get my clothes on? How am I going to flip onto the couch? How am I going to do these things, right? And so my brain, like, that's my X factor, is from an early age, my parents gave me that advantage. But you can have that advantage too. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations, whether that's going to the gym or making that phone call or knocking that door. And then instead of reacting to problems, just start, bringing forth solutions. And those solutions don't always have to be right. But the point is to get you in the habit of finding solutions. And so to sum it all up, that has changed my mission, because my mission has changed a little bit. I want to focus my time and energy on majority of serving the youth. I want to show them the tools, the knowledge, the mindsets, the physical health, the invaluable perspective, and translate that to the future generation, so they don't have to be a suicidal teen, an unconfident teen trying to figure out what confidence is, or, what is happiness? Why am I not happy when I get that car, house, and all the money in my bank account? Why is that, right? I want to show them the way and expedite the process for the youth. And that's how everything has come full circle, because I know what it's like to be that kid. Or I know what it's like to not know about confidence and that it's a skill. Like, I want to translate everything up here, not only to adults, but to the future generation, because when I die, and I don't know when that is, that at least I know that I did my part for the future world that's going to come up.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that, bro. And you guys literally, having Nick right now, speak with this passion and purpose. You guys should see him in front of 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 people. The fire and the energy that he brings to the table is just it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I just, it's been like, when I saw it in Sydney and when we connected in Singapore, like, just the energy is unbelievable what you bring to the table always. And you come with this whole energy and passion always, brother, always.
Thank you. Yeah. get in state right before I go on stage. But energy is contagious. Energy is contagious, and another question you can ask yourself is, are you the vampire or the light? Because we all know that person that comes into the house or comes into the business and that's a vampire and sucks all the energy dry. And we also know that person that's the light that, brings up the state, brings up the morale, motivates people. And so, you really want to be conscious of what kind of energy you're giving people, most importantly yourself. But then when you come outwards, like what kind of energy are you giving others?
I think that's important, especially, well, it's important always, but especially now too, with, the current situation going on in the world. Um, I think it's fascinating how I was on a call the other day, and there was a friend of mine. He was saying how, he was pointing all to the the problems, right? And he wasn't paying attention to any of the solutions that could come as a result of that. So I think it's important now too, is like, how do we want to focus on the current situation and really manifest a good solution moving forward? Because I get it, like, you and me both have businesses, and I get it, our businesses are going to get affected, but it's what we do in these times of uncertainty that it really manifests what the solution is going to bring and how the future is going to be possible for us and our clients and the people that we serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to be fully transparent, like my speaking company with the guys, our main revenue is when I get on stage, we get paid, right? And so the events got canceled. We literally saw thousands and thousands of dollars and lives, just slip through the cracks. And no one prepared for this. No one knew what was going to happen. And so like we could freak out, or we looked at it as a time to double down on the digital presence because it was weak. And so that's what we tend to do is like right now I'm learning about sales funnels and I'm writing copy and I'm writing emails and I'm learning. And and the question that you ask yourself is like, even if you don't have a speaking company, you may be saying, how does this relate? Well, first, there's always someone that is losing way more than you. There's always someone that is way worse than you, way off in a worse situation than you, but that's okay. The second thing is that right now the majority of the world are losing their habits. They're losing their structure. They're laying around. They're sitting in their sweatpants all the time. They're not consuming any content. And so who do you want to be on the other side of this? Do you want to be fatter? Do you want to be lazier? Do you want to be stupider, if that's a word, stupider on the other side of the coronavirus? Or do you want to be taking this time to be more present with your family? Do you want to be taking this time to be more present with your spouse? Do you want to be taking this time to learn about the things that you always wanted to learn, or something that's congruent with what you're working on, or ways to provide more value when you get back to your company? Or like, so like really, what are you doing with your time? And, some of the tactics that you can do is every day you can get up and you can get dressed just like you were going to work, just like nothing ever happened. You want to still create that momentum. You want to brush your teeth. You want to get in the shower, shave, do whatever you need to do that makes you feel like you're still in routine. And especially for the parents out there, like your kids are going to see you laying around in your sweatpants for the same sweatpants for the 3 days. Like that's going to reflect on them. They're gonna be like, oh, mom and dad are taking a break. I'm going to chill back. But really, now is the time to double down on your habits. Now is the time to double down on your structure. And that way, when this wave passes, which is going to pass, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You come out smarter, fitter, stronger, mentally fit. Like you're ahead of the game because you chosen to take this time not to live in fear, but to work on yourself, because it's like a paid vacation. Or maybe if you're not getting paid, but you get to take this time to pay it to yourself with more investment. Like, so that's really what I'm taking this time to do, is really focus on the weaknesses in the business, focus on the weaknesses in myself, the weakness in my car now. So I'm taking all this time to just evolve, right? And come out stronger. My blade is sharper and not dull.
I like it. I think that it's fascinating because, normally I would ask you, say, knowing what you know now, what would you tell somebody starting in an industry, like whether it's speaking or online or everything? But the truth is that everybody can start right now, and because everybody has the opportunity, it's the opportune time, right? So to me, it's like, now if you want to get started in a new industry, or if you want to get it double down on the digital presence, or if you want to learn how to manifest and build online, or utilize some of your skills, take that expertise and leverage it with all this amazing technology that mankind has created, you know, you know, now is the opportune moment, right? So I guess to me, I always ask, I always ask everybody is like, what's something that as you continue to go through, the ups and downs, because as you mentioned that, the businesses can go, you're getting, so it's time to like double down here. What's something that if anybody is ever curious around their own business right now, whether they have $100 million business or they just started one, what's the one question that they need to consistently, that you would ask yourself, when these circumstances come about? What can they ask themselves? Or what are three tips that actually, let's go there. What are three tips that you would give anybody that, whether they have $100 million business or they're just thinking, they have a job? What are three questions they should ask themselves before really ever doubling down into something that they're really unexperienced or uncertain about?
Yeah. I'd say for the business first is like, how are you leveraging the time right now when everyone's faces are glued to the screens? Like what kind of marketing material or what kind of value are you putting out when everybody's staring at their screens? That now is the time and never to post content and give value. Second is, are you, I learned this from one of the parts of business mastery is like, are you falling in love with creating your product, or are you falling in love with your customers' needs and having that create your product? Right? Because that's how our main product really came about was Junior. We created Junior Victorious, which is a 52-week curriculum on, the Victorious framework. Like for the month of V is vision. Why is vision important? Teaching kids why vision is important, how they can create a vision, and how they can communicate their vision to other people. But the way Junior Victorious came out was I listened to people in meet and greets. The one top thing that people said to me after my speeches were, I wish my kids were here. Oh, can you send my kid a video message? Oh man, I wish my kid could learn from you. I'm like, I can make a kid product and then share my knowledge and share my tools and share my invaluable perspective in a fun way to kids. And so that's the second thing is like, are you falling in love with the product that you're creating, or are you really falling in love with your customers' needs? And then the second thing, the third thing would be, maybe you have to really dial in, like, what are your individual strengths? Because I feel like a leader really puts people where they excel. Like, I'm not very good at numbers. I can only count to one. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm not very good at numbers, so I'm not going to be the numbers guy, right? And that's why you hire. That's why you delegate. And so really, maybe you go back to your individual strengths and be like, what can I harness? What are my superpowers? And then everybody on my team, how can I put those people where they can excel? Also that, especially with everybody, that's home right now, like you could be doing Zoom trainings all the time with your company and your employees. There's so many ways that you can connect still with your employees and your clients through the computer screen, like just like now, and so that would be the three things that I'd say is like, now is the time to really get super honest with your business, like the strengths, the weaknesses, and the ways that you can improve. So first, like, how are you leveraging, what are you posting when everybody's eyes are on the screen? The second thing, what did I say the second thing was? I'm off topic.
Falling in love with your clients' needs.
Yeah. The second thing, what are your clients' needs? Like, what are they telling you? Like, listen to them. That will really create your service, and that will really create your product. And then the third thing is, what are your individual strengths and how can you leverage them even more? And how can you pull them out from your employees and the people that are in your business and put them where they excel, especially in this time of uncertainty. And then I'd even add a fourth is like, now more than ever, like, give free value, just pour into people. And the reason why you pour into people now is because when you help people for free, when they're in the time of need, when everything comes around and everything's back to normal, they will remember that you helped them out in that time of need. They'll remember you. They'll remember how much you gave them when you didn't ask them to pay for anything. They'll remember that. And so they'll come around and say, that guy helped me when everyone else was selling a product, and that goes a long way, whether that's individually or them speaking word of mouth. But help people, give free value now when everyone's freaking out and struggling. Just see how you can best serve.
I love it, man. So you touched on Victorious, and I just, if you don't mind, maybe explain a little bit about Victorious, because I think that's for those that may not know about Victorious and the strength behind the brand, and really, what, how much that means to you, and what that
Yeah.
mission looks like. I think it's important. Do you mind sharing kind of what that mission is?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the way we came with Victorious is because, I think for the majority of my life, and I think a lot of human beings are guilty of this, is we live in the why me. We live in the why me, which is the victim mentality. I mean, how many times in your life have you, in your internal dialogue, asked yourself, why is this happening to me? Rather than having, that famous saying that the world is happening for you and not to you. But really, my whole entire life, I was like, why me? Why do I have to be born like this? Why do I have to go through the challenges? Why do the kids have to make fun of me? I was in this victim mentality. And so really Victorious is becoming the victor of your life, winning over your life, winning over your brain. Because a lot of it's about psychology and the fact that the human brain isn't designed to make you happy. That's your job. You have to do that. You have to program it. The human brain is designed to point out your weaknesses. The human brain is designed to put out your insecurities and focus on your insecurities and all the negative in your life. And so it's up to you to train your brain to become the victor of your brain, to program it to see the good, to see the strengths, to see the solutions, to see the possibilities, to see the opportunities. That's what Victorious is becoming the victor of your life, taking 100% accountability for your situation, despite what it is, no legs and one arm, whatever it may be, that you have to take accountability and go out and make a life for yourself, take harness of it. But like we were saying, the majority of it is psychology. Like I love the line that, Tony uses, because he says business is 20% mechanics, 80% is psychology. Everybody knows the mechanics, or the mechanics are out there. The mechanics are out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but everybody knows how to lose weight, but why don't they do it? Why don't they do it? You put a little less food in your mouth and you do a little, a little more, activity, you drink some water and you'll lose weight. It's not a hard concept, but why don't people lose weight and they complain about it? It's because their inner psychology gets in the way, their inner beliefs, the things that they say. I can't lose weight, rather than asking the question, or rather they ask, why can't I lose weight? Rather than asking the question of, how can I lose weight and enjoy it at the same time? Which one's going to stimulate a more empowering solution? Because the quality of our life also comes down to the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. Ask a better question, you'll get a better answer, right? And so we have to be very conscious of this brain of ours. And so I think Victorious, to wrap it all up, Victorious is becoming 100% accountable for your destiny, for your situation, the people around you. Like, that's all up to you. If you don't have an empowering environment or an empowering ecosystem, leave it. Like, no one's holding you back. Like, cut them. If you're complaining about all the negativity in social media, don't look at social media. But I just feel like people don't realize that they're in control. And so Victorious is knowing that you're in control of your simulation, your experience, and then, shifting it through your thoughts, shifting it through your actions, shifting it through the things that you're consuming, all of these things. And that is becoming victorious, which is, being the victor of your life, taking control, massive control.
And you wrote a book called
Yeah.
Victim to Victor, which is actually, it's already out on the shelves, right? Already ready. People can go out and buy it and find it.
Yeah. So yeah, victim to victor, how to overcome the victim mentality to live the life you love. And so basically it was just, I'll give a little context to the people in business watching this and stuff.
Yeah.
We wrote this book for credibility. No one knew me as a speaker. No, I was at the time, I was a 21-year-old kid, no business credibility. Hey, does your car dealer sales team want a pep talk from Nick? This was where I started at. And so we were trying to figure out ways to write a book or get a book for credibility. And it's funny because I was like, oh yeah, no problem, Ratmir. Like, I'll write a book. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, how's your book coming? I'm like, dude, I wrote my whole story and it's only 4 pages long. And so I soon realized that I'm not an author. I don't write books. So I outsourced my weaknesses, and I found a guy who's a great friend of mine now who interviewed me for 6 hours and wrote my book, because I don't write books. And so there could be a limiting belief of oh, I don't know how to write books. I don't have the resources. I don't have the knowledge to write a book. No, you can write a book. Just find a different solution. And so that's how we created that book. And it's basically, life stories of mine. And the format is life story, the lesson, and then the application and how the reader can apply that into their life. And after every chapter, there's unique questions designed for you to work on yourself. And it's also, a great way to story tell the children, to kids, because storytelling, as you know, is the most powerful way to teach and to impact people. And so what better way than, write a story about your life. And for those of you listening right now in your head, you're saying, well, my story is not cool enough. No, it is. And you never want to compare my story to Eric's story, to your story. All our stories are amazingly equally unique. And the more you share your story, not only will you get more comfortable with sharing your story, but you'll realize that when you share your story and the things that you've gone through, you will help people, and you'll get a little fuzzy feeling inside called fulfillment.
Yeah, and fulfillment is all we all love that, man. Like, honestly, I think that talking about our stories, being vulnerable and authentic about our stories, how powerful it can be. Like, not even knowing that things that we've all experienced can really manifest and help others see a light that they've never seen before, see a perspective that they've never seen before, see an opportunity that they never have ever seen before. So I think that that's totally so beautiful to just hear. Is like, how many times can your story or my story or somebody else's story, listening to somebody else's story, impact us, and our story impact somebody else's? Because at that point, and people are like, oh, I don't want to tell everybody, I don't want nobody to know about me, I don't want everyone to hear all my my skeletons in my closet. But it's not about you, it's about how you can help somebody else as a result of your experience. And that makes it more profound, that makes it more beautiful, and that makes it, like you said, that makes it more fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I pride myself on my authenticity. I pride myself on my being genuine and being very open, because when I share, one of the biggest compliments I get is people go, "Wow, man, you make me feel so comfortable. I'm so comfortable listening to you." And that's one of the superpowers I have, is as a speaker, you not only have to speak to different tastes of the audience, but you make the room comfortable, and it drops their barrier that they have around their mind, and they listen to you with an open mind. They're not skeptical of you, right? And so if you're trying to build a fan base, if you're trying to build just a following, or a group of people, share about the things that you're currently struggling with. Share about the things that you struggled with in the past. And like you said, we're most likely, if we don't want to share those things, we're focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on ourselves. We're focused on, what are they going to think of me? Are they going to think less of me? But I come from a frame where, if I know that a story is going to impact someone, or has the ability or potential to impact, or help someone, then I'm going to share the story, because it doesn't bother me, because I'm comfortable.
I love it. So I love it. I think that that's so powerful. And just to kind of switch gears with that a little bit, because I think that speaking of stories, what would be, and would you be comfortable, obviously sharing some of your biggest, struggles, maybe your biggest failure that you had to go through, and what you had to learn from it? Because I'm curious myself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll spin something on you real quick. The majority of people would think the word failure is a negative, but I look at it as my best friend. And so really, what's your attachment to failure? Are you running from failure, or are you embracing failure? Because the only thing that's going to really make you grow is when you fall down, and your failures and your hardships. And so when I was 18 years old, I was actually a professional prankster. The app Vine came out, and people knew me all around the world for dressing up as a legless zombie and scaring people in Walmart. And so, I built this following around that. And I had the decision to go to college. I got accepted to a college with my best friend, or to go to LA to be a potential core cast member of a show like Impractical Jokers, but the whole cast was disabled, and you could pull many pretty messed up pranks. And so I persuaded my parents to let me move to LA with a roommate, to pursue this, this acting career, or this TV show. And I know nothing about TV shows. I know nothing about contracts or pilots. And so I move out there, and I sign a lease to a $1,600 one-bedroom studio in West Hollywood. It was a shack, and I was there with a roommate. And 2 weeks after I signed the lease, they canceled the show. We never even filmed the pilot. And I said, "What do you mean you canceled the show?" Like, "Yeah, it just didn't get picked up." And that's all I heard from them. And here I am. I'm left in LA with about 8 to 10 grand in my bank account from my pranks, and a roommate that's never paid rent. He never got a job, and he stopped paying rent, and the apartment was in my name. And my dad always taught me about the importance of credit, and to never miss your bills, and to never miss your rent. And so Nick, being Nick, I would spend less money on food, and I would spend money just to save up to pay my rent because I didn't want to mess my credit up. And so I was sleeping on a pile of my laundry. I didn't have a bed, and I refused to tell my parents how bad I was struggling because I could always hear my dad saying, "I told you so, I told you so." And so, it was a very dark moment for me, and I kind of felt like a failure, and I kind of felt like a mess up, a screw up. And at the time, some things were going on personally. My brother had came to me with, we talked about this off air. My brother came to me with some problems that he was going through, and this just came stacking down on me. And I went broke. I went super broke, and I moved back in with my family, and kind of feeling like a failure. But now the way that I look at it is, it was probably my greatest gift. And the reason why I say that was my greatest gift is because I now know how to live with absolutely no money. I now know how to live with absolutely nothing. I know how to sleep on the floor. I know what it feels like to go to sleep hungry. I now have a broader perspective about other people that have less than me. It's one of the greatest gifts because it helped me exercise the muscle of living paycheck to paycheck or living broke, like really broke. And so I remember laying there, on the floor and looking up at the ceiling and saying, man, success is having money for my bills and a little bit more for food. That was my version of success at the time. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted was some wiggle room, man. And I didn't have wiggle room. And so, instead of looking at that as the biggest failure, I don't regret it at all. I love it. I always reflect on that. I'm like, hell yeah. A man with no legs and an arm had the balls enough to move across the country with a roommate and ship his car and just live alone after he had spent 18 years with his parents taking care of him. Like, I did that. And I also lived with absolutely nothing. And, I ate peanut butter and tortillas to fill my stomach at night. And, I've got a broader perspective and I don't regret it because another quote from the man is, our problems become gifts once we learn from them. And that was a massive problem that I thought, and it became my greatest gift. And now, even in a situation where we're not taking payroll because of Corona, I know that I got a house and I know that I have a little bit money for food, and that's good. That's all I need, that's one of the greatest gifts. And at the time was one of the biggest failures you could say for me, but I look at failure as my buddy. So depends how you look at that stuff.
It's always fascinating when we can take that failure and look at it to propel us forward rather than hold us back. And I think that's a huge takeaway, multiple different times of like seeing Tony and like listening to him speak and like, how, failure is our best friend, is something that, has allowed, and so many times achieving failure, right? And seeing it from that perspective of like, man, this has just been something, like you said, it's happened, for us, not to us. Right. And I think that for myself, I used to look at it as a really negative experience, and like, what I'm going to be judged on, or what are people going to think of me, or how am I going to look, all these stories versus the true fact. And the fact was, that this is just going to give me another opportunity to stand out, pick up, help more people. And so many people out there too, like they're making their own stories, right? It's like, this is the time to stop storytelling, because we all have these fucking great opportunities of wanting to tell story or like survival, and we make a decision to just lean in. And when we lean in and take those experiences and learn from them, we won't do it the same way, or we'll learn from somebody that was ahead of us, that can guide us and take us, right? So yeah. And I'm sure that's been so important. So
yeah, and like one of the biggest fears is fear of failure. That's because the people have the wrong meaning behind failure. And I always say I'd much rather be in the trenches, pursuing something that I'm passionate about and trying to build something and falling straight on my face at something that I really enjoy and trying to design a life for me than, being on the sideline and saying, man, I wish, or I wonder, or I don't have the resources. You learn the best from experience, from just diving in, that goes down to, really what's your why, because if the why is powerful enough, right, the how will reveal itself. And so a lot of these times, the most successful people, they don't really know how, but they have this massive why. They have this massive vision. They have this massive thing that's pulling them. And then the how then reveals itself because you're so passionate about what you want to do. And so another question that the viewers can self-reflect on is like, why do you get up every day? Why do you go to work? Is it to provide financial freedom for your family? Is it to retire your parents? Is it to take your mom to Egypt? Like, why do you do what you do? Because a lot of us are just running around with our head like chickens with their head cut off, and we don't know why we're going to work, and we go through the motions, and we get caught up in day to day, and we really don't know why. And so, a question you can ask yourself is, when you're on your deathbed, would you rather have, more remember whens or less what ifs? Which one?
Remember when. I like that. Remember when. Remember when.
Remember when I did that? Remember when I tried that? Remember when I failed on my face? That was badass. Remember when I got up and I right? Remember when, bro? Not what if, man. What if I took that ballet lesson? What if I was part of that chess club? What if I knocked that door? What if I did door-to-door sales? What if? Oh, no way, dude. Like, you get, as long as, for as what we know, we only get one simulation, one life, one human form, whatever it may be. And so you might as well try everything, because one day you're going to be shot off into the universe or somewhere, wherever we go. And so I'd rather have no regrets, right? Regrets.
No regrets. Yeah, exactly, bro. 100%. I like, it's like embrace life rather than fear death type of thing.
Yeah.
Bro, so tell me this. Share with me, if you don't mind. Biggest like success that you felt, like that moment when you've just felt so fulfilled and so like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening to me. Because like there's I'm certain there's sometimes there's countless of them that you're like, holy cow, I want to reflect back and I can take myself back to many of those. But one big, like, massive experience that you can just take yourself back to, and you've anchored yourself back. Like for me, it was the first time standing on a Date with Destiny in Cairns here in Australia, and just sharing my mission in front of like 2,500 people, and just like feeling so passionate about, like, I can anchor myself back into that moment every time, and it just gives me to keep going, right? So I can already feel it, right? Like, yes, put myself in state. So what's a moment? What's like a moment, an amazing moment that you can just look back and feel like, wow, that was a massive element of growth, success, opportunity that this just like take my breath away.
Yeah, I'll share two because they're pretty close and they're pretty aligned. The first was Singapore, when Tony accidentally came on stage when I didn't introduce him. And I wasn't even ready. Backstage said, oh, he introduced you, run out. And there goes Tony Robbins. And I'm sitting here on the crowd. And I'm like, come on. I don't even know Tony's behind.
I remember that.
And I have the video.
I remember that.
Around, and Tony Robbins is like, I'm like, oh my God, you're here. And he's like, give it up for him. And he's like, let him hear you, and I remember that. And then the second moment is UPW Miami. And the reason why UPW Miami was so powerful for me, because for the company, me and the guys, it was our biggest speaking engagement. It was 15,000 people. But for me personally, one of my best friends were there, my girlfriend was there, and my parents were there. And my parents only had seen me speak like 2-3 years ago in front of like 500 people. And so like, they haven't really seen like the trench work. I mean, building the company with the guys and really the grind and all of it. They see like the Instagram stuff and stuff, but they don't really see like the groundwork, right? And so for me to be able to come out on stage and people just like going insane when I came out on stage and being like in my head, like, look, mom and dad, like, look what I did, like, look what we did.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty emotional for me. And being able to actually, and in that moment, there's a couple things that happened. So my buddy Cody, who's my trainer, he was there, and previously we would talk about each day, like break it down, afterwards, and he was saying like I almost get to crying, but I can't cry. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to get tapped into me crying, and so like he didn't know it, but I broke his pattern in front of 15,000 people when I was like that. I was like, stand up. I was like, that guy is the reason why I looked like that on the bodybuilding stage. I was like, give it up for him. And he started bawling his eyes out. It just came over him. And so I was able to break his pattern and get him to cry. And then the second thing, I ended that speech off and I said, everything's about decision. like Tony had the decision to serve people. Tony had the decision to bring me out on stage, and my parents had the decision not to abort me when everyone said to abort me. And my parents just like, and, just like crying, and had them give it up for my parents, and just seeing them, and I came up, and my dad held my face, my mom like blew me a kiss, and they were right in the front row, and just this be able for them to see like, look, mom and dad, like look what I did, it's
That's powerful, bro. That's heartfelt. I feel goosebumps, and I like, dude, I feel grace right now. That's so beautiful, man. It's like, I remember seeing a picture of Cody like grabbing and like holding you up in front of everybody.
that one, yeah.
And I think I met him a long time ago with I think an old mutual friend of ours from back at Blast from the Past, but I met him like on a Zoom like this too. So I really recognized him. And then I went, oh, and then it was just, it's crazy how small of a world it is, bro. Like, so crazy.
Yeah. And too, like, that's another thing that gives me massive fulfillment, is being able to give people experiences, that they don't think they could have, or spoiling people, right, that I love. And so for Cody, I told him, I was like, yo, like, I'm gonna do my victorious chant, and then I'm gonna have you pick me up and Lion King me in front of 15,000 people, and we're gonna do it, to the next level. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, bro. He's like, don't you have to run it by their team? I'm like, no, I'm doing it. Like, we're just doing it. And so there's a picture of him holding me up, and I'm just, people are screaming victorious. So that moment was a very, very fulfilling moment.
That moment, I even remember when we did it in Sydney, bro. Like when we are victorious, and we spent that time.
You're right in front of me. I came down the stairs, and you're right.
Yeah,
it's going crazy.
We were going crazy. It was awesome. It was awesome. And Don's like right next to me too, and it was amazing. You guys are. So what's the relation? Are you guys all like, because you guys are pretty tight, like you, Don, and Ratmir, right? Like you guys are like brothers. You know what I mean? Like every time I see you guys everywhere, you guys are together. You guys are like unified. It's beautiful to watch. What's that brotherhood like, bro?
Yeah, it's crazy, because it wasn't at first like that, and then when we started the company and moved in with them, and it was like building relationship, and it was all new. But when you spend so much time with people, you learn so much about yourself, you learn so much about your others, you learn about their triggers, your triggers, and one of the biggest things for us that helped us was doing personality assessments to see how one another should be communicated with. I think that's a massive thing also for companies that you should be doing, is personal assessments to see how your employees should be best communicated to, because everyone has their flavor that they need to be communicated to. But it's been great to, be able to build this relationship and a brotherhood, and be able to travel the world with the people you love and impact, as many people as you can. And it's not all perfect. We fight, we're brothers, like we get mad at each other. There's yelling battles, right? And we like that's what happens. And so, one of the big breakthroughs for me after my last date with Destiny was compassion. That was my word for like the year. For life is compassion. Like we always want to go down to anger and freaking out and pissed off at each other. And then one person breaks out a hug and interrupts your pattern, and you're like, shit, I got to come down to compassion. So, like Tony said, when you're in your head, you're dead. When you're in your heart, you're smart. And so, really come from a compassionate standpoint, whether that's your employees or your brothers, sisters, mom, dad. When you want to be pissed off, just try to find it in yourself to operate from a level of compassion. And so it's really been amazing to be able to travel with them, to build, to learn from each other. And they don't even know that I crashed my car, and you were the first one to know. So.
Yeah, man, that's good. It's, like they said, they have so, like, every time I see, you guys, it's all the three of you. It's like it's this trio of bros that you get, looking after one another. You guys are all like, taking care. It's cool. It's just such a great, amazing dynamic. And it's tremendous respect for all you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to. Yeah, bro. Like yeah, man. It's cool. It's cool to see, like, especially from somebody that only had two sisters. Had two sisters. Like I never had that brotherly feeling, you know what I mean? Like other than, my buddies or whatever like this. Yeah. So it's like, it's cool to watch, right? That type of dynamic. And like, how, you guys can look after each other. So I really, really respect it tremendously, bro. I really, I've always wanted to know this, like how did you get into, working alongside Tony Robbins, because, he's a massive inspiration to both you and me. He's our teacher. He's always spent, he's changed, my life. I know he's changed yours on a big scale too. How did that come about, bro? Because I think that's just super cool. And if you could share that, man.
Yeah. One word: persistence. And it's funny because, with how they hire their salespeople is they'll hang up on the phone. They'll hang up on you like 10 times. And if you don't keep calling back, they won't hire you because they respect the persistence. It's your first test. But it's funny because when I first met Ratmir, the first thing he said to me after I shared my story, he said, "You're going to be on stage with Tony Robbins one day." And I said, "Who's Tony Robbins?" I had no idea who Tony Robbins was. I was a 20-year-old kid that never went into personal development. But fast forward, we went my first UPW. The goal was to meet Tony, and we were able to finesse and find the right people and just like sell them on the story. And I was able to meet Tony with like 8 other people. And he invited me to Date with Destiny as a guest. And so I'm like, dope. So I went to Date with Destiny. And so we always just like, we're like master networkers. And so we went around the room and just found out who's important, who's really close, what's the team dynamic, right, of the leaders, senior leader, all that stuff. Just really analyze their business. And we told them, we found someone who was like, right, she's been like the right hand for Tony for a while, but we told them my story and everything and said, if there's any time for Nick to speak, whatever it may be, we'd love to do that. Well, like 6 months goes by, we didn't hear anything. And then we get an email and they're like, "Hey, we were wondering if you'd be up for speaking at the youth leadership. Tony's not there, but it's a youth leadership. And you have to, like, we're not paying you and you'd have to pay for your own flights." And we're like, "Yeah, we're in," like just to contribute. And this was my first time to showcase my speaking. I went there, I spoke, I burned it down. They're like, "Oh my God, like, this is amazing." I'm like, "Just give me a shot." And so we said, if there's anything we can ever do, if there's ever an opening in UPW, and they're like, "Well, UPW slammed, like, we don't see that being a possibility, but we'll always keep you in mind." Almost a year goes by of Ratmir following up, like, "Hey, Nick just climbed a mountain. Hey, Nick just did this. Hey, Nick just did this," just staying on him, nothing. And then finally we got an email like a year later and they said, "Hey, we were talking with Tony and your name came up about being one of the speakers for UPW." I'm like, they're like, "Would you be willing to speak at UPW Dallas on the Energy Vitality Day about bodybuilding and stuff?" And so I was like, "Hell yeah." And so we crafted the speech and everything, and I did everything they wanted, and I went out and I performed, brought the energy, burned the energy down. And I knew that Tony is very in tune with his events, whether he's there or not. So I was like, this guy's he's gonna see my performance. He's gonna analyze it. He's gonna want to know if I'm good or not. After that, they said, "Tony is blown away by your performance, and he's also blown away on how much energy you bring." He's like, you're able to keep the energy in the room just as high as when he's on the room. Like, it's incredible. He's wondering if you can speak on day one, and day one is only Tony. Day one is only Tony talking about 6 human needs, and they were like, he wants you to reinforce the 6 human needs, and the reason why you pick you is because he's absolutely certain that you can keep the energy just as high if he has to go take a break." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." And so basically it was like day one, I'm on call. So if Tony goes over, which he always goes over, or if the venue has a curfew, like, I really don't go on day one, but I definitely get and go on day 4. And that's why Singapore was the first time that they brought me on in day 1. So I'm like on call. I'm like, am I going on? Am I not going on? They're like, "Get ready." And then they're like, "Oh, Tony's going over. You're not going on." So like messes with your emotions. And so I have to always be on point. And so day 1 in Singapore, they let me out of my cage on day 1. And that's when I, was doing my woe clap and Tony was behind me and I didn't know. And from there, they were like, "This is absolutely amazing." And they were like, "We want you on all the UPWs." So like, I'm on all the UPWs now on tour with him. I was supposed to do San Jose, it got canceled. I'm supposed to be in London, in Birmingham for my birthday in May. That's not going to happen. So the next one is July 16th through the 19th in Chicago. But it just, I'm great. I'm really blessed to share the stage with the best in the world and be in proximity of that, and especially have especially have the compliment of being able to bring the energy and bring the power. That's one of the biggest compliments I've gotten off stage in that room is people like, dude, your presence is just like Tony, dude, your delivery, oh my God, it's amazing. And that just reassures me and gives me more confidence. And, I was at the Siri Lindley horse gala raising money for her. And Tony came in and he didn't see me, and he was sitting in the front row. And I was like, it was kind of dying down. I was like, let's go over to Tony. And so like I roll up to him and I tap him on his shoulder, and like he like turns around and he goes, he's like, Nick! And I'm like, what's up, brother? He's like, you're here. He's like, and just like, and then he said this to me, which was, I was super surprised. He's like, man, he's like, I just want to let you know that I'm extremely, grateful and happy that we're able to go on stage together and serve. And he was like, one of the other times he was like, this me and you thing, it's fucking beautiful, and I'll do it as long as you want to do it. And I was like, this is dope, So I'm grateful,
Bro.
man. There's a lot of persistence and showing up with no expectations and just wanting to contribute. And, that's a life lesson for everyone. So many people are trying to see like, what can I take? What can I get? But really, you need to give some sort of value to people if you want to ask for something.
Yeah, bro, man, it's so important. And I think that is a beautiful, beautiful, takeaway. And I think that's an amazing, it's an amazing way to really share how much it's important to contribute, and to appreciate, and to not expect, like Tony says, trade that expectation for appreciation, continue to, the meaning of living is giving, all of this is so freaking important. And yeah, man, I like throughout that story, goosebumps and just gratitude, for your time, grace to be, even like, close with you. To me, it all aligned the right way. And I'm just grateful that we had the time today to really connect, and spend. If you want to just finish it off with one thing that that you want to share with everybody, at the end of this, is one thing they could take away from this, obviously amongst all the beautiful, amazing stories.
Yeah, and there's also, if you're up for it, I can give them one of the smaller gratitude exercises that I've recorded for people to go through, especially in this time of uncertainty. We'll post the link in the show notes if you're up for it. And the thing that I'd end off with, thank you. The thing that I'd end off with, and you've heard me say this on stage at the event, is there's a lot of things that we say we have to do, but you change your have tos to your get tos. That was mine. You change your have tos to your get tos, and your life will change in that moment. I get to go to the gym. I get to stay home during this time. I get to build a business. I get to have kids. Like so many things we take for granted. And even I, a man with no legs and one arm, know that there's millions of adults and kids that are confined in wheelchair beds and hospital beds that would give up everything and anything just to trade places with me because they just don't have it like I do. They just can't go outside. They can't drive a car. They can't go to the gym. And so who am I to sit here and say, man, I have to go to the gym or I have to stay in shape? I get to. That's a privilege. And so, that would be something that I would, leave off here is, not only is the biggest disability bad mindset, but make sure that you're switching your have to's, all the things that you say you have to your get to, because life's a privilege, and all the things that you're able to do in it is really a privilege, and it's not a have to.
Life is a privilege, bro. And Nick, and obviously I'm going to share all the show notes, in the show notes, ways that people can get in touch with you. But also, do you want to just, share a way as well, just so that if anybody's driving or listening to this on the go,
I posted a link just for your show notes.
Okay, cool.
That's the gratitude. We'll post that in the show notes. It's a gratitude exercise. Tony does a really long one, so I can condense it in like 5 to 7 minutes. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, at Nick Santonastasso, but that's a really long last name. So if you type in Nick Santo, I'm the guy with no legs and one arm with tattoos, and there's not many of those running around the world. So I'll be sure you'll be able to find me that way.
Brother, it was such a blessing having you, man. I really appreciate the time. So many blessings, bro, and nothing but love for you. Thank you so much.